I know. You're probably wondering what's going on. Well, I'm here to tell you. It's me, Inked, and I need you guys to head on over to AJsRANTroom.com and pick up your Trifecta merch. Yes, that's right. Trifecta merch is here. It is here for our Trifecta family to show their love and support and advertise for free. Well, not technically for free. You did pay for it. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Head on over to AJsRANTroom.com and pick up your Trifecta merch. We're all inclusive. If Prince can wear it, so can you. Have a good one.
It's always lit over at AJsRANTroom.com. We got the best bags and accessories, our beloved Black series. We got fresh lids for you hat lovers, fire jackets and hoodies, and of course we got you covered on the t-shirts. And introducing our first shoe line, Aloysius Germain. So get on over to AJsRANTroom.com today and get to shopping. You won't be disappointed.
Let's go. Let's go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome. Hope all is good in your world. Now, I have to sort of reintroduce the RANT experience because I think some people don't understand what it is. Yes, the majority of my content is politics, right? The majority of my content is politics, but with this podcast, it's sort of I can do what I do in that realm, and then I added some other facets of my interest, right? As many of you know, I'm a former choreographer, a writer, producer, I do I wear a bunch of hats, right? And so I like every now and then flex a little bit of those other hats. So with this podcast, politics is a good, strong part of it, but also we add elements of my humor and music nostalgia and throwback pictures and an inspirational moment, which usually revolves around my faith. So that's the gist of the podcast, because a lot of times people come in, they see the title of the podcast, and they're like, "Oh, why he ain't talking about a title?" And it's like, because it's a variety show, and the title is part of the variety show, so I don't want to put I guess I could, but I don't really want to. So I kind of like the way it's branded, so I'm gonna just kind of keep it the way that it is. But anyway, on today's show, in our politics fix, we're gonna talk about Trump being fed up and he wants some action. He wants his administration to start getting it done, and I am all in. In our Turntable Rewind segment, we will take you back to the year 2005 with our number one song, our number one album, our number one movie, and we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation about all of this unnecessary drama going on in the conservative sphere, especially the social media space, with Candace, Owens, and several other creators. So we'll talk about that. We have an awesome throwback picture, and of course, we're going to have you laughing with the Leave Me Alone segment and an inspiration point that will get you right back on course. If Charlie Kirk's memorial didn't already do that, this will reaffirm that. So all that and more coming up on the RANT Experience.
Thank you for tuning into the RANT Experience. This episode is brought to you by our official merch store, AJsRANTroom.com. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you get new uploads and live streams hot off the presses. We drop a new episode of the RANT Experience every Monday, and now it's time for a politics fix.
Now listen, Donald Jaquavius Trump is fed up. He said, look, enough is enough. You all need to get your stuff together, because I am tired of us waiting to start pulling the button to prosecute folks that we keep calling out. And he dropped a very strong truth message just to sort of reaffirm us and everyone involved. And it says, Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially, quote, same old story as last time. All talk, no action. Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, and Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. That's all of us for the most part, correct? Okay, yeah, because we see very often breaking news, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. We found this, we discovered this, this was uncovered. We Ilhan Omar married a brother, blah, 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 blah. And then nothing happens to these people. They literally just sit there and they perched on their throne until they're ready to leave. And that's a little bit crazy to me, bro. So yes, they're all guilty as hell, and we need to start doing something about it. He goes on. Then we also put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who was never going to do his job. That's why two of the worst Dem senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit. And that we had no case. No, I fired him. And there is a great case and many layers, and legal pundits say so. Lindsay is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. Facts. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. President Donald J. Trump. And I could not agree more. This is the performance we've been doing. We're done. We got to talk about this because Trump is fed up, and honestly, I feel him. I feel him on this one. I mean, he dropped the post and made it very clear, wrote it down, made it plain. And honestly, this is the pressure that folks in this administration need, Pam Bondi and everybody down, right? He said he's gone through 30 statements and everybody saying the same thing. Yeah, we're all tired. I'm tired of every major conservative content creator saying, hey, we discovered this, or this was discovered, and it's factual. This is not, some QAnon right-wing conspiracy thing or something they pulled off a Reddit thread or something. These are real things that are happening, and folks are not paying attention. And you could feel it in his tone. Like he's saying enough is enough. He is not buying any more excuses. He's not sitting back and waiting. He's basically telling his administration, stop bragging and stop dragging your feet. It is time to handle business, because that's where a lot of people fall short in life in general, is we fall short on the action. Like, we'll talk a good game, but then when it's time to move, I can't do all that. I mean, the brother even called out he even called out how they almost put somebody in a key position who wasn't even doing the job. Someone who was never going to fight for the truth. And I think we're all tired of that in our politicians. I would probably say, of all the folks in Washington right now, just Congress, let's just say, I would probably say 10% of Congress really wants to do the right thing for the people. So that's not just Democrats, that's also Republicans. A lot of it's performative, a lot of it is theater, a lot of it is just not in line with what the people want and what the people need. So it's time for some action. Time for some action. So why are we sitting around? I mean, why are we letting time kill the momentum and our credibility? Because folks want to go back to business as usual. Folks don't want to make big decisions because they're more concerned about their political future than doing the right thing right now, right? Because this is why Donald Trump is president, because he is not afraid to make the big decision that's going to piss everybody off. He's not afraid to actually do it. He's not just lip service at a debate and then, just kind of goes off and does what he want to do. Now, we could talk about Israel. That's a whole other message. But he did make his position on Israel very clear throughout the campaign as well. So I don't know why folks are so upset that he is so pro-Israel. He's always been pro-Israel, but the delays are killing faith in the system. I agree. People are tired of hearing we're working on it. They want to see results because we don't want to get to 2027 and no one's been pushed through any type of system. No one's been investigated properly. Nothing. We're just files are just sitting on desks, and we're bored at this point. We need action. We need action. And he reminded everybody they dragging him through him. They dragged this man through impeachments, indictments, investigation after investigation, and over what? Nothing, because they didn't want him to be 47. That's why. It was supposed to stop in 2020, and then Joe Biden fumbled, was a terrible president. Come to find out, Joe, 81 million votes was for nothing. And they can do all that to him. And why can't they take accountability? Where's the accountability on their part? We know that a lot of these things were manufactured by them. And now it's time to hold people accountable. Bottom line, Trump is pressuring everybody on his side to get it done, deliver justice, show the people that the system actually works. Because at this point, we're a little leery, we're a little weary. And in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, we're even more leery and weary. And honestly, that's a lot. That's the energy a lot of Americans have right now. They're tired of all the wah, 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 wah. They want to see action. They want to know the fight is real. Not just tweets, not just press conferences, not just political theater fights in Congress. They want to know that people, that the folks that they voted for, that they trusted to appoint the right people, are actually going to get it done. So it's go time at this point. It's go time. There's no more we found this, we uncovered this, and then it just vanishes, and then we just hope that people forget about it. So Trump, keep applying the pressure, because at this point, if people don't move, it's still time to replace folks. People got deputies for a reason, and backups, and second in commands. And if you ask me, it's about time we get it done. It's about time we get it done. I think we're bored. We're bored at this point. There's only so many more salacious headlines I can tolerate. There's only so many. We're working on this, or we uncovered this about this person, but we're not going to really investigate it. No. Investigate and start arresting people. Investigate and start pushing court cases forward. Yeah, that's where we need to be right now. Because all these pussyfooting around, it's corny. It's for the birds. Anyway, what happened on this day in American history?
So what happened on this day in American history?
In 1692, the final hangings of the infamous Salem witch trials took place in Massachusetts. 8 people were executed, marking the darkest and bloodiest day of the trials before they came to an end. In 1789, President George Washington appointed Samuel Osgood as the first U.S. Postmaster General, establishing the foundation for what would become the U.S. Postal Service. And on the same day in 1789, Congress established the U.S. Treasury Department, with Alexander Hamilton soon becoming the first Secretary of the Treasury. This laid the groundwork for America's financial system. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln issued the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that enslaved people in Confederate states would be free as of January 1, 1863. This shifted the Civil War's focus to not only preserving the Union, but also ending slavery. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy signed legislation officially establishing the Peace Corps, encouraging Americans to volunteer abroad to promote peace, development, and cultural exchange. In 1980, Iraq invades Iran. The U.S. would later become heavily entangled, shaping American foreign policy in the Middle East for decades. And on this day in 1987, the family-friendly sitcom about Danny Tanner, Uncle Jesse, Uncle Joey, and the kids launched. Full House became a staple of the late 80s, early 90s TV and gave us the Olsen twins. In 1994, one of the most iconic sitcoms in television history debuted. Friends became a cultural phenomenon running for 10 seasons and making stars out of Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Matthew Perry, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, and David Schwimmer. Now, are we ready for an uncomfortable conversation?
All right, let's get into some things here because we got a lot going on in the conservative sphere. But I do want to say, as I said during the lunchtime rant podcast today, that Charlie Kirk's memorial service was absolutely beautiful. It was the right way to send him out. It was the right way to send him off, and the amplification of Jesus during that service was absolutely phenomenal. Um, yes, it was about Charlie. Yes, it was about the horrific way in which he passed away. But in his legacy, he didn't want it to be about mostly about him. He wanted to mostly be about his faith. And he made that very clear in an interview he did, that he wants to be remembered for his faith. And that's on purpose. That's on purpose. He wanted to bring Jesus to as many people as he possibly could. And in death, he did just that. And what a beautiful service, beautiful speeches, beautiful moments from everybody. And God bless you, Charlie. And we will keep the legacy going. But now it's time to get in some ass, and not in the way you want me to, Sexy Dex. Let's talk about this. Let's get into this because the conservative movement is looking a lot like a hot mess right now. Ever since Charlie Kirk's assassination, these creators have been fighting like the real housewives of CPAC over Charlie, over Israel, over Trump, over who's the real conservative voice. And before we go any further, I got to check y'all real quick. And I'm talking to you out there, y'all. Stop idolizing these people. These folks are just like you and I. They're regular people. The only thing you should be worshiping is Jesus. The only person you should be worshiping is Jesus. Not Candace Owens, not Brandon Tatum, not Ben Shapiro, not any of them. Not any of them. Yes, you respect people. I get that. Now some of y'all treat Candace Owens like she's your pastor. Some of y'all act like Brandon Tatum is your big cousin. Some of y'all ride for Ben Shapiro like he's the voice of God himself. Nah, these are just people. They're gonna mess up. They're gonna say dumb stuff sometimes. And defending them like you're arguing about Drake versus Kendrick is ridiculous. These people are political commentators. You don't understand. We like delivery. Somebody might do it better than you like. Somebody might be more informational or more fact based. Some people might be more emotion based. It all depends on your personal taste. But I get being attracted to certain people. I get that. But what I'm saying is don't worship them. Don't put them on a pedestal. Don't make them so untouchable that if you hear a critique about them, you're going off in people's comment sections about them. You've got to always be able to stay objective when it comes to human beings. We're human beings, and sometimes we get it wrong. And as I've said a million times, worship no one but God. And that's it. That's the period on the sentence. Now let's talk about Candace, because whew, sis been on one lately. She's out here on her own island asking questions, dropping bombs, stirring the pot, and honestly, some of it's good. Some of it's good. Some of it is necessary, and some of it is just drama. Um, and I'm not getting into whether she was still friends with Charlie Kirk and what text messages I don't care about any of that. That's not why I'm here. I'm not here for the gossip, right? I'm here to make sure we all understand that even though we're on the same side, we're not tribal, and that we can agree to disagree and still be respectful and still work together. Because people, I've had conservatives or people on the right block me for the dumbest reasons. So I'm just like, okay, let's just get it together, right? Because all of the voices are necessary. All of the voices, are necessary, and that's what I tell people all the time, especially when I talk to these blacktivists, and I'm like, yo, you saying black voices matter, black lives matter, but you exclude black voices you don't agree with, then you don't agree that black lives matter. That shouldn't be your mantra. It should be black people who think like me matter, not black lives matter, because all of our lives don't matter to you. See what I'm saying? All right. Well, what I see right now is this. This moment is part grift, part truth, part reality check, and part use your damn discernment. You got to decide for yourself who are the real ones in this movement, not just the ones with the most followers or the loudest microphones. Because again, if we've learned nothing from the world, just because you have a lot does not mean you are the most qualified. Just because you have a big megaphone and you caught lightning in a bottle does not mean you're the only one whose opinion reigns, right? You're not the only one who has a valid perspective, right? Because oftentimes I'll see with some of these creators as well, Candace is this, or she has this many subscribers, this many followers, and that's great. I love that for her. But it's not about how many subscribers you have, how many followers you have. That's not the issue here, right? The issue is people, your commentary is not above reproach. And I'm not talking to Candace directly, but I'm talking to people who support her. Again, I'm talking to the supporters. And I don't even call them supporters. These people are just fanatics. Like, there's one thing to like somebody. I ain't got no issue with Candace. I've critiqued Candace. I've supported Candace. It all depends. Everything is not, oh, well, I don't like this person, so therefore the lens I'm always going to put everything through is I don't like you. No. If you do something well, then cool. I will give you your props on it. Absolutely would. But the one thing I do want to deal with right now is this whole concept of Catholicism and Charlie Kirk and all of that mess. And so I want to run this clip right quick of what Charlie actually said in July about Catholicism, and then we'll talk on the other end of it.
Actually hit on one of my major concerns of Catholicism. And I mean, like, I love Catholics, as people know. I'm very close to even my local Catholic priest, Father Klein, great guy. My wife was baptized Catholic, but I have some big disagreements with Catholicism, and the first of which would be Mariology. But let me first say, I think we as Protestant evangelicals under-venerate Mary. She was very important. She was a vessel for our Lord and Savior. She is a phenomenal example, and I think a counter to so much of the toxicity of feminism in the modern era. However, I would say Catholicism goes way too far. Catholicism believes two things as dogma, and most Catholics, if you ask them this, some don't even know. Number one, do you believe that Mary was sinless? The Catholic Church does. There is no biblical basis for this, the only of which would be that Mary was full of grace in the Annunciation of Mary in Luke 1. That is a big stretch. By the way, that was not even added into official Catholic dogma till the mid-1800s. The second of which, which is called the Immaculate Conception. There's a second form of Catholic dogma that believes that Mary was assumed into heaven, that her physical body was actually the Assumption of Mary, was assumed into heaven. Again, that is a pure faith claim. It is not biblically supported at all whatsoever. So I think that we as evangelicals can do a better job of remembering, studying, talking about, and pointing towards Mary, because she was a vessel chosen by God Almighty that brought our Lord into this world. But I find biblical evidence to the opposite. I find biblical evidence to show that Mary was sinful like all the rest of us. In fact, I see biblical evidence that it says very clear, I think, in the book of Romans, that no one is sinless except Christ Jesus. This is not a major issue for me between me getting along with Catholics, me loving Catholics, me thinking that Catholics are doing a great job for the planet, for the world. But I personally would not be able to enter into a faith that believes that anybody except Jesus Christ our Lord was without sin. And that's my final comment on Mariology. Happy to debate it with others if that ever surfaces.
So there you have it. Charlie literally told you where he stood or stands on Catholicism. Now, can people change their minds? Absolutely, people can change their minds. Why can't they change their minds? Of course, people can change their minds. But this whole concept that was what, July 22nd, and so from July 22nd to September 10th, he had this radical shift in his thought process. Now, listen, I'm not privy to private conversations. This is all speculation, but that would take a real act of Congress to change that ideology, right? And he was very clear about his ideology. And if there was any notion of him converting to something else, I don't know why he would not have been honest about it or open about it, you know? And so I think Charlie was very clear. He had his issues with Mariology, and he listed of some other in that when he goes further in that clip, he listed some other theological beefs with Catholicism. So Candace comes out after his death saying he was, quote, becoming Catholic. Yeah, that sounds a little bit off to me. I don't know if I quite believe that one. But again, I'm not privy to the private conversation. So say maybe they did have a private conversation, and in her interpretation, or maybe boldly he said that he was thinking about that. I don't know. She claims to have the text messages. She claims to have messages, and she's barely naming names, but it is what it is. And it's okay for her to say whatever she said. I'm just making it clear that it doesn't quite ring with what he has actually shared publicly. And look, I'm not here to argue Protestant versus Catholic, Baptist versus Seventh-day Adventist versus Lutheran. I don't care about the label. I care about Jesus. I care about staying close to him. That's what I care about. You don't need a membership card to the right denomination to know him. That's it. I always found it really weird how you have the base of it, and then you want to start adding your own flavors on it, which is fine. But to say that one is better than, look, listen, I'm not here for that argument. This is my focus. Christ is the focus, not who or who does what and how they get there. That's your business, and I'm not going to be there. When you have to answer for whatever you believed or whatever you did, I'm not going to be there. I got to answer for what I did. So, hey, do you? Now, is Candace spot on, or is she doing too much with regard to the follow-up investigation with Charlie and all of that stuff? Honestly, it's both. It's both. And to a degree, it's understood. She's asking questions no one wants to ask, and that's a good thing. But sometimes it feels like she's turning into the Alex Jones of Turning Point USA, if you will, for lack of a better analogy. But the conspiracy energy is on like 10. And this is an ongoing investigation, so it's not like we're going to have all the answers in 2 minutes. But there are some good questions she has probed. There's some footage she has brought up that doesn't quite go with the timeline. So nothing she's saying, I'm not saying she shouldn't say. I'm just saying, there are some other aspects of it, that could be left on, not totally away forever, but just table that until we know a little bit more. And I just want you, the audience, don't get to y'all don't get to turn off your brain just because someone sounds convincing, right? You still got to do your due diligence as well, right? And if you don't want to, that's fine. But also understand that what's being said to you could be true. It could not be true. It could be a complete lie. It could be sprinkles of the truth, sprinkles of lies. You don't know. So if you're not going to do your due diligence, you can't come in, balls to the wall because Candace Owens said it and think that that's the gospel, and she's been right sometimes and she's been off sometimes. And so to say that because it came out of her mouth that somehow it's supreme to a Brandon Tatum or Ben Shapiro, is a little weird to me. It's a little weird. But again, these are fans. I'm trying to rationalize with fans, and I know that's a really difficult thing to do. They have come in my comment sections and said some really horrible things about me when I've critiqued Candace in the past, and because people can't take a criticism of somebody they're worshiping. And I made that clear at the top of this. Don't worship people. Worshiping people is very dangerous. But here's the truth. Charlie's murder is still under investigation. There are tons of moving parts, and honestly, until somebody like Kash Patel takes over, ain't nobody trusting the official story. So now that we got Kash Patel in there, which is actually what that should have said, now that we have Kash Patel in office, I don't think we trusted his appointment. Like we trusted that he would be appointed to do the difficult work, to be trustworthy, right? Now, that's not to say that we can't question some of the moves, because we can question some of the moves. Like, hey, I don't quite understand that. That didn't look right. And what about this and what about that? And he did, I think he dropped a tweet addressing it. And so maybe one day he will address, some of the rumors and the things and really put the timeline together the way. The one thing that Candace did pick up on, and then I think a lot of us did when we read the indictment, was how the hell, who types like that? Those text messages were really weird though, because nobody, old, young, or otherwise, talks like that on text message. The only way you're really talking like that, vehicle, and using those type of words, is if it's a professional environment, right? And even sometimes in a professional environment, you can get away with certain words on text, right? You don't have to say vehicle. You can say car. I'm going to my car. You're not going to say whip in a professional email, but but these were personal emails with his quote unquote boyfriend. So if you're texting your boo, you're a little more loose. You're not as rigid and making sure everything is spelled right, and punctuation is perfect. You don't care when you're texting people personally. But listen, I'm gonna say this. Bottom line is, stay woke in the good way. Stay woke in the good way. The real woke. The real woke. Not hashtag woke. Use your discernment. Don't get played by drama. Don't get sucked into cults of personalities and followers and stuff like that. Don't don't make these creators your idols. I get it. I get liking people. I'm not saying you shouldn't like people. You should like people, but don't put them so far that they're now above reproach. They're above correction. They're above being called out. Because at the end of the day, you're only supposed to worship God, not influencers. And that's the real talk. I'm just being honest with y'all. This whole thing has been a lot for a lot of people, especially the people closest to Charlie. And this has actually been going on a lot longer, because this really started around when all of the Israel stuff started happening. And then when Candace and the Daily Wire fell out and she lost her job there, and she moved into independent media, which was probably the best thing for her, considering how she wants to express herself creatively. That was probably the best place for her. But again, respect people's contributions. I respect contributions of all the folks, the Crowders, the Benny Johnsons, everybody. I respect all their contributions. But you still got to use your discernment, because they're still ultimately, at the end of the day, influencers, and really the main objective for a lot of them is to get you to click and like and view and interact, which is fine. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you've been hired to do. But just use a grain of discernment. That's all I ask. Anyway, moving on. This is our Turntable Rewind. Rewind back to the time. The year is 2005. And the number one song in the nation is We Belong Together by Mariah Carey. Now, We Belong Together was the song of the year and Mariah's, defining comeback moment. After a few quiet years in the early 2000s, that's a safe way of putting it, she returned with the emancipation of Mimi. And this ballad instantly reminded listeners why she was one of the greatest vocalists of her generation. With its emotional lyrics and soaring delivery, the track dominated the Billboard Hot 100, staying at number one for 14 weeks and ending 2005 as the biggest hit of the year. It's widely seen as one of Mariah's signature songs and proof of her resilience in this crazy music industry. Now, the number one album in the country was The Massacre by 50 Cent. Now, The Massacre wasn't just an album, it was a cultural takeover. Dropping in March 2005, the project sold 1.4 million copies in its first week, and that was a near record at the time, and went to sell over 5 million units in the United States. The singles Candy Shop, Welcome to the Candy Shop, and Just a Little Bit were club staples, while We Outta Control, a remix featuring Mobb Deep, expanded his dominance. The album solidified 50 as one of hip hop's leading voices in the mid 2000s, blending braggadocious street energy with hooks that cross into mainstream radio. Now, the number one movie in America. Now we're back on last week I saw the actual movie for the first time in the run of this podcast. And now we're back on the streak of I haven't seen the movie. So the number one movie in the country on this day in the year 2005 was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This is the fourth Harry Potter film. Goblet of Fire took the franchise into darker, more mature territory, which resonated with audiences worldwide. Released in November 2005, the movie grossed nearly $900 million globally, making it the top box office hit of the year, featuring Twizzard Torment, the Yule Ball, I don't even know these people, and the shocking return of Voldemort. I didn't read any of these books. The film raised the stakes for Harry and his friends while introducing new characters like Cedric Diggory. Yeah, forgive me, all the people out there. But wait, this is the J.K. Rowling's lady, right? The J.K. Rowling's is the author of Harry. Wait, it's her, right? Hold on. Y'all gonna have me do research live and in person. Okay, yeah, it was J.K. Rowling. I was mixing her up with the 50 Shades of Grey person. I don't know who wrote those books, but I was like, I don't know if she's 50 Shades of Grey or if she's Harry Potter, but I know she's not both. But that's crazy. Oh, hold on. We're having a little technical problem. Wait a minute. So I'm just looking here in the queue. So earlier when we was producing the show, I went out the studio and came back and it erased everything. And I see that it hasn't changed my throwback picture. So I'm gonna start the segment, but then I'm gonna go find the throwback picture. It's so ghetto, right? So ghetto. Anyway, and now it's time for an AJ throwback. No, this was the throwback from last week. So we're gonna live on air. We're gonna go find the right image that was supposed to be there because everything got deleted. And I said, don't forget this and don't forget that. And then of course I forgot the picture. And for some reason, I don't know what's going on with Apple, but I have not been able to find anything. There we go. We're here. Pictures. Who was the photographer? I can't remember. Was it Lou? I think it was Lou. Not our Lou, another Lou. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So here we go. So I've shared this picture on I've shared this picture on Trifecta Hour. I've shared this picture on Trifecta Hour, and I want to share it again. I mean, there's a whole lot in this series, and it gets a little racier, but this was I just love this shoot. It was just a great shoot. You ever had just a really good shoot? You like remember? I didn't like all the setups. Some of the setups you'll never see because I will absolutely never share those pictures. And they were just crazy. And I was like, how was I talked into wearing that? I don't know. How was I talked into doing that? I don't know. Nothing crazy, but just not, anyway, whoop. Anyway, so this was in obviously New York City. I just realized I have a print in addition to my one nipple ring, because I think I had one nipple ring at that time because the other one either fell out in my sleep. I mean, there's been several scenarios where I've lost rings in the past, but I think in this one, it fell out. It rejected or it fell out in my sleep. But anyway, I love this shoot. I loved everything. It was just a great time. I wasn't uncomfortable. All the people there made me feel like, I was actually like somebody important. so I'm grateful, and a beautiful time was had by all. But cool. Enjoy. That was my throwback. Anyway, man, leave me alone.
Don't just leave me alone.
Seriously, if you just tell me whose this is, I'm not going to be upset.
It's yours, I'm telling you. There's
It's
no
not
other
mine.
And here is Mester of Germany, his first attempt in the javelin in the F41 category, and he's hurled that one.
So if that's a nut cracker, would that be a nut?
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person.
What does Bill Cosby and Santa have in common? They I low-key forgot to end it too. That's why I was like, wait. Neither of them will come if you're awake. Beba! He knows when you are sleeping. He knows when you're awake. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can...
Why can't I exist as my true self right now?
That's not your true self, that's why.
This! You don't think this is my true fucking self? What the fuck is your true self, you fucking ignorant piece of shit? ¿Qué pedo, güey?
Oh, I know. Yes, sir. Breathe.
So what we not gonna do? We're not gonna have you talking me through the pain with your shirt off.
I know that last one wasn't really leave me alone-ish, but it was too funny to not include. Oh God. Anyway, I got dark humor. What good is life if you ain't gonna laugh a little bit? It's okay to laugh. It's okay to laugh. Anyway. Now let's land at our inspiration point.
Let me help some of you. It's when the unknown writer of Hebrews says, we have a high priest who understands everything that you go through. For this reason, you should stop being phony and just come to him. How? Boldly. When should you come boldly? In times of need and mercy and grace. Then when your heart is hurting, come boldly. Then when your mind is heavy, come boldly. Then when you're battling insecurities, come boldly. When your marriage is in trouble, come boldly. When you have financial needs, come boldly. When you're battling lust, come boldly. When you're bound by addiction, come boldly. When you feel ashamed, come boldly. When you feel unworthy, come boldly. When you feel like you don't deserve it. Why are you hiding from him when he knows everything you're going through? When you've fallen and missed it, come boldly. When you've sinned and made mistakes, come boldly. When you've drifted from him, come boldly. When you stop reading, come boldly. When you stop praying, come boldly. When you stop going to church, come back boldly. When you've been gone from the gathering for a long time, come back into fellowship. How? Boldly. Man, I feel the Spirit of God in here. It's the lies of the devil that keeps you out of his presence. I don't care how bad I missed it. I'm going to keep running back to the one who told me I should come to him. How? Boldly. Here I am again, Lord. I messed up. I'm here again, Lord. I fell down. Here I am again, Lord. I'm struggling. Here I am again, Lord.
Now it's time for some shout outs. Shout out to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for always holding me down, through whom which all of my blessings flow. Shout out to the production team for always keeping it solid. Major shout out to the RANT fam. Thank y'all so much for always supporting the live streams, the content, for always showing up when I need y'all. And once again, please make sure you like, share, comment, and if you're new here and you like what you saw, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll get notified every time we go live or drop a new video. If you would like to monetarily support the channel, you can always go to AJsRANTroom.com and drop some of your hard-earned cash on our merch. We also take offerings in the virtual collection plate. Now, to some of you, this might be just another podcast, but to me, it's my next chapter in purpose, and I thank you for lending me some of your time. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you chose to give me a few moments of your day, and for that, I'm grateful. And with that said, I'm out.